Coming up on the show, we're taking it easy, trying to keep cool this week. We find out how Atlanta City Council is taking that concept to your roof. Also, we're going to examine how a recent shredding of the pride flag is impacting the city's LGBTQ community. And we're going to welcome a new member to the 11Alive team who knows one thing or two about Metro Atlanta gridlock. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello, I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines, and we take a look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. Of course, we invite the experts in to give their take on today's top stories, and we try to have a little bit of fun as well. Try to have some fun in this heat, if you will. An 11Alive weather impact alert for today, of course, because of the heat, but also because we'll have some scattered showers, thunderstorms popping up around the area for this afternoon. 50% chance for that rain. I'm thinking after 2 or 3 o'clock is when you'll start to see it. Where we have those thunderstorms will be some brief heavy rain, some frequent lightning, and also some gusty winds, maybe even damaging winds up to about 40 to maybe 60 miles per hour. Certainly we'll be watching out for that. We're going to have those thunderstorms each and every afternoon, and starting today, folks, or at least our temperature will go down after today. 97 for the high temperature. You factor in humidity, it's going to feel like the triple digits. But once we get to Thursday, Friday, and then to the weekend, temperatures will be in the low 90s. We'll continue that trend as we start the work week next week, looking at 91 on Monday. Tuesday, back to 90. I think we'll be in the upper 80s by the time we get to the middle of next week. So looking forward to that, at least. Some cooler temperatures coming our way. Certainly the humidity will try to stick around. All right, earlier this month, the Atlanta City Council approved an ordinance requiring reflective roofing materials on new buildings and major roof replacements. The move aims to combat urban rising of heat, improve public health, and reduce energy consumption across the city. Here now to talk about those cool roofs is Ronak Basu. He is the assistant professor at Georgia Tech in the School of City and Regional Planning. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Chesley. It is a pleasure to join you and all of the 11Alive viewers this morning.
All right, yeah, we appreciate you being here. So explain to me what the cool roof concept is all about.
Yeah, so the Cool Roof Ordinance is requiring all new and replacement roofs to be built with what we would call light-colored reflective materials, which are commonly known as cool roofs. These materials help reflect more sunlight and absorb less heat than standard roofs. And as a result, roof temperatures are going to be lower, and potentially we might see lower energy costs for cooling buildings, even indoors.
So you're talking about mainly on newer buildings or ones that have major repair. We have a lot of buildings here, right? Eventually, will we look to replace all of them?
Ideally, we would want cool roofs or any sort of cooling materials to be installed on building rooftops, but why stop just there? So this is a step in the right direction, but we have a lot of pavement, right? So we have parking lots, we have sidewalks, we have roads, and there's an opportunity to also install what we call cool pavement materials, which some cities are doing, but we haven't really seen a lot of that happening here in Atlanta.
Gotcha. So explain to us now, we get the concept, you got a lighter color roof, maybe it reflects some of the sun rays back off into the atmosphere a little bit there, but how does it help us breathe easier or help our health here at the surface?
Yeah, so what happens is as more sunlight is being reflected back and less heat is being absorbed, it also helps us reduce the amount of smog and ozone that's being trapped. So it just helps us with creating better air quality, and especially when we talk about cool pavements, not so much about cool roofs, which are much higher up than we would normally be walking or biking. But when you think about cool pavements, that directly affects our experiences as we walk or bike around or as we move around, and that helps us breathe better air, it helps us feel cooler, and it also makes it more comfortable to get around.
I'm all for comfort. I am all for comfort. And how do you balance the concerns of a homeowner or builders who just want what's affordable or familiar?
So the thing with cool roofs, as with any sort of new technology, is that when the technology is new, sometimes the installation costs can be on the higher side, but in the long term, cool roofs are actually going to be saving people money. And that's because they help us keep the indoor temperatures lower. So your energy costs in terms of paying for air conditioning or utilities, that's going to be lower in the long run. And I think what we could do at both the city and also at the state level is provide incentives for people to install solar panels, install cool roofs, and similar initiatives.
Is there a model for this where maybe it has been done already, where people have seen lower utility bills and things like that, or healthier environments? Have we seen that already?
Oh, yes. Chicago is considered a pioneer. They adopted this in 2008 following a major heat wave. So we have over a decade of experience to draw from. There are other cities with hot climates, such as Los Angeles or Scottsdale, Arizona, that have also been doing this. And on the East Coast, we are familiar with not just temperatures that are high, but also humidity, right? Places like New York City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and now I'm very glad that Atlanta can also be counted in that list. We have to balance that what we call the heat index, or a combination of temperature and humidity.
Right.
And these are ways to get there. We are not the first, unfortunately, but we are certainly not going to be the last. And there's a wealth of experience out there that we can draw on.
Do you expect this to spread throughout the metro area, not just it's being a downtown type of a situation?
Ideally, we would want to look at building energy demand, so looking at buildings that are using up a lot of energy, and we'd want to target those, right? So we want to phase it out. We're not going to be able to tackle every single building all at once. So we want to look at the highest impact areas that would give us the greatest benefit. And also thinking about cool pavements, for instance, we want to be looking at corridors where you have a lot of people who are walking, biking, using public transportation, so who are out there and exposed to the elements. So we have to be looking at where are the people, which buildings are consuming the most energy, and if we target those areas and buildings, that's going to give us the biggest bang for our buck.
Lastly, what would you say to those people that say this is kind of a small fix to maybe a bigger climate issue?
I think that is certainly a fair point. The bigger climate issue requires all hands on deck, and we need to be looking at it from different perspectives. So what we are talking about right now is just from the perspective of building infrastructure. We have to be also thinking about our energy usage. We have to be thinking about transportation. That's the biggest contributor to greenhouse gases. We have to be thinking about how we move around. Several other what we would call urban systems that are all connected, that all affect our quality of life, public health outcomes, and we need these little initiatives that all come together. So there isn't going to be a single solution, there isn't a silver bullet out there, but collectively through multiple different initiatives and efforts, we can get there.
Ranu Basu, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. We can certainly use this cool stuff now. It's hot outside, my friend.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We're doing a lot of cool research, no pun intended, on this topic at Georgia Tech. So hopefully folks are going to be interested in learning more. Thanks for having me again, Chesley.
All right, take care. You're watching The Take, folks. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this. President Trump is spending his first full day at the NATO summit with global leaders as the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Iran is holding. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. And Alice, the president is calling this a virtual obliteration of Iran's nuclear program, but we're hearing different versions from intel sources. Give us what we're hearing this hour.
Right. So the president has been adamant that he believes that the nuclear program that Iran has been working on, which it says is just for energy civilian purposes, but that the president had been worried, among many, many other people, that it could become a nuclear weapons program. He again asserted this morning that that program was completely obliterated between the strikes that Israel has been carrying out and then the U.S. airstrikes that were carried out against nuclear sites over the weekend. There is this new U.S. intelligence from the Defense Intelligence Agency. It's a preliminary assessment that estimated Iran's nuclear program was delayed by 3 to 6 months, according to 3 people with knowledge of the report. The White House called that assessment flat out wrong. One of the sources that NBC News heard from said that core pieces remain intact of the nuclear program. And there have been questions also about what Iran may have moved from its nuclear sites before the U.S. strikes. President Trump this morning said again he did not believe that they would have had time to get anything out because of how quickly the U.S. acted and the complexity of moving that kind of enriched uranium and equipment. And he said again, he believes it was obliterated. He also referenced a report from the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission that he signaled spoke about a deeper and longer level of destruction to the Iranian nuclear program. And we're standing by for another press conference before long with President Trump, where we expect to hear more details about that.
Yeah. Alice, do we know what level of concern the NATO allies have behind closed doors, not just about Iran, but also about the U.S.'s messaging on this?
So no question that it's a big concern when you're talking about a nuclear threat. There are a lot of concerns from a lot of people that the idea of Iran, which is a state-sponsored authority of terror, according to the U.S. and according to what we can see, there are a lot of proxies in the region that are funded and backed by Iran that have carried out terrorist attacks of various kinds, that allowing a power like that to become nuclear armed is something that would be of concern for any world leader really around the globe. So they're tuned in. And as for exactly how far the U.S. and Israel have gone toward destroying the nuclear program, that's something that I think everyone wants more information on. The trouble that we've been hearing from experts is that it just takes a little while to kind of flesh out those damage assessments and get a fuller picture, and that we're sort of in a holding pattern right now, especially because so much of the infrastructure was underground, and it's just really hard to get a clear picture. The United Nations nuclear watchdog said himself that while visible damage appeared to be significant, that he just wasn't in a position to say what underground damage might be, even though he felt that the nuclear program had been set back substantially.
All right, Alice, really appreciate that insight. We'll be checking back in with you pretty soon on this. We're going to get more and more, I'm sure. All right, plenty of stories for you coming up, folks. Plus, finding health care and facilities in rural places can be quite hard, but Wellstar is making an attempt to help it out. Details on that coming up. This is The Take. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. You know, finding good health care can be tough, especially living in rural communities. But now Wellstar is working to bridge that divide through 24/7 telehealth support. Here now is Dr. Matt Lyon, Director of Wellstar Center for Digital Health. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you so much, Chesley.
All right, how does this digital network work?
So we've been doing this for several years, where we connect academic and Wellstar resources, specialty physicians and those kind of things to rural hospitals. In rural Georgia, there's a lack of physician resources and a lack of access to specialists. And so by using digital health, we're able to connect those specialists without the needing to drive to those places, which then really allows us to expand our workforce to meet the needs of rural Georgia.
Gotcha. So walk us through what happens when a patient is in a rural ER, right, and suddenly needs a specialist. What happens?
Absolutely. So there, you're still relying on the local healthcare system. So the doctors, nurses, clinicians there, they identify that a patient has a need for something that they can't provide locally, whether that's infectious disease or a cardiologist or pulmonologist. And so they initiate a telemedicine or a digital health consult where they notify us that they have a need. We, just like we're doing right now, we get on the TV, so to speak, and we're able to beam into that hospital. We're able to then work with that clinician to do a physical exam and the lab testing necessary to make a diagnosis, and then give expert advice about how to treat that patient. Sometimes that means that the patient has to leave their rural community to come to Wellstar to get that treatment. And most of the time, though, it means that they can actually stay in their rural community. We've treated over 5,000 patients in the last couple of years in rural Georgia, and over 75% of them have been able to remain in their rural hospital.
Gotcha. Matt, we've been seeing a lot of rural hospitals closing down or hanging on by a thread. How does this network help them to stay open?
Oh, that's such a fantastic question. Yes, it does. So the way it works is if you don't have access to specialists, you oftentimes are transferred out of a rural community because there's a fear of disease. And when you're able to tie in that specialist to the rural community and you can assure that local clinician that that need is not there for that patient, or it can be handled in a less urgent fashion, like as an outpatient, then that patient can stay in the rural community. What that means, though, for the rural community hospital is that they have more patients to submit bills on to Medicare and Medicaid. That means they have more money coming into their hospital, which makes them more financially viable.
So if this didn't exist, then that hospital could be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. The hospital we talk about in situations like this is Candler County Hospital, which is in Metter, Georgia. Back in 2018, when the governor surveyed the rural hospitals, that was number 2 on the closure list, the risk of closure list. And bringing in digital health connectivity like this over the last several years, they've gone from having 2 patients on average in their 25-bed hospital to now being full, having a full 25 beds full. And what that means is they have more revenue, they have more ability to invest in themselves, and now they're actually even looking to expand. So it is a great turnaround story for our rural Georgia hospitals.
Matt, are you seeing the need specific in these rural areas, or is it just a wide range of things that you need to provide for them?
Well, it really, to be a good provider, a good digital connectivity partner, you really need to be able to offer a very broad range of services, from pediatric to geriatric, from OB to surgery. And so that's what we do. We tie in all manner of specialists and clinicians so that that patient's getting the right care and the right advice in their community hospital.
Okay, Matt Lyon, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate that. Some good news there.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care. All right, up next, we're going to meet the newest member of the 11Alive traffic team. You don't want to miss out. Who's going to be my partner? Coming up. Here is a look at I-85 just before the connector there. Looking pretty good, too. Yeah, got some sunshine on the outside. At least the traffic's looking pretty good. And you know, traffic is one of the top priorities here at 11Alive. And now we're adding a valuable resource to our coverage of Atlanta's highways and byways. Gets busy out there. Let's bring in 11Alive traffic reporter Doug Turl. How you doing, my friend? Welcome to the team and welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be on with you. It's an honor to be here with you, Chesley. I've watched and kept up with you for a long time, and as a young child, I remember dreaming about Bruce Arian bringing the helicopter to my elementary school, and he was supposed to Sagamore Hills Elementary in DeKalb County, and that trip got called off for some reason, and I was crushed. So,
oh, wow.
Helicopters and traffic in Atlanta have been in my DNA for a long time.
Yeah, you've been covering traffic here for more than 2 decades. So what is it about the city's congestion that makes it so unique to cover?
Gosh, well, first off, it's ever changing. So we always talk about Atlanta traffic like it's the same story over and over. And if you start at a 30,000 foot view, it might be slow. Okay, same story over and over. But when you get down to it and you realize when we're adding extra resources, by myself joining Rachel Cox Rosen and nailing in on an incident, right? And making sure you know it's in the left lane or 2 so you can stay to the right, or making sure that you know to stay out of the right lane because the police are right there. Those little things actually are what give it the edge, not just saying that there's a crash. So I think in Atlanta, what makes it unique is you have people from all over that move here, and then this is a big freight hub, right? I mean, the Port of Savannah, all these extra tractor trailers, so you have a lot of people from out of town that one little mistake could cause a big consequence, and Atlanta is one of those places.
That's absolutely right. When people find out what you do, what's the top question they ask you?
Besides, oh, do you do the weather? Because they get traffic and weather mixed up, Chesley. I'm sure you've gotten the traffic thing before. They always ask if we're in a helicopter, and I was for a lot of my time in my previous stop. But then they don't think that there's any coverage of traffic outside of being above it. They're thinking like it's the 1990s. And actually, we have cutting edge technology right here in the studio, and we do a lot of groundwork to make sure we know, like I was talking about, those lanes, where it is. So when somebody asks, and I talk about, well, we're on the computer a lot of the time, that's what it is. What they're going to find out, and what a lot of people ask me about this new job is, wait a second, what? They think, oh, you're the traffic guy. No. I am part of an awesome traffic team here at Channel 11 with Rachel Cox Rosen, and she's going to be in the studio each morning, and then I'm going to be jumping in our impact vehicle and actually driving to different things and looking at it with our photographer, Stephen Boise. So that's going to be the newest thing that I get to do, and can't wait to add that to my answer.
Absolutely. Talk about adding things. The Gridlock Guy column, you're doing that as well. You're bringing that to us. How do you approach that column?
Yeah, for sure. I've been privileged in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to write it for 8 years now. Had to think about it, 8 years. And now that column is going to be on 11alive.com in addition to that. And on down the line, I'm going to be contributing other transportation and traffic stories to 11alive.com exclusively, and hoping to put some of those with a visual spin on them as well. And so I look forward to that.
Sounds good to me. In all your time covering traffic, give me 1 or 2 of the biggest storylines you covered.
And so everybody immediately asks, you're talking about the questions a little while ago. People immediately ask about Snowmageddon or Snowpocalypse. Oh, wow. Wow, what a cue. There it is in 2014. You can see those pictures. And then, so that was huge. I worked, 12 plus hours, multiple days in a row, serving both radio and television. And then of course, the I-85 bridge collapse in 2017. I was in the helicopter above it while it was still burning. We had to actually go and get fuel, and then that's when it collapsed, okay? So those were the two biggest. But last year, it's only been just over a year, I flew over my first ever police chase in action. And that was, of course, the very infamous bus hijacking that happened after a mass shooting in downtown Atlanta last June, and getting to fly over basically the second half of that chase and do live play-by-play on that. And I'm not trying to be inappropriate. That was a tough situation, right? It was a fatal situation, but flying over that was unbelievable. And those are three that stick out. And two others that are weather related, though, Chesley, and you were here, I believe. 2011, we had something very similar to Snowpocalypse in January of 2011 that did similar things to the city, and then Snowpocalypse said, "Hold my beer," and they went for it. But then in 2009, the floods, the 500-year flood we had in September of 2009. So, see, I guess that's why they think I do weather, Chesley.
Well, they do happen to tie us together. I mean, whenever they talk about it, say traffic and weather, they put us together.
Exactly.
So it's not our fault. We can blame it on our producers, I guess.
And rightfully so. And we'll be in the impact vehicle. So when weather is affecting your morning drive any weekday, we're going to drive out to it and give you the traffic angle, but also show you literally what's happening there instead of just telling you about delays. So I look forward to teaming up with you and Rachel both to tell that story to our viewers.
All right, you can see Doug and Rachel every morning right here giving you your traffic, folks. So welcome to the team, my friend. It's
great to be on with you, man. And I got to step up my style game because you got me beat right now. I got to get some new threads.
Don't worry about that. You look fine, my friend. Thanks for being with us.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Coming up on the show, we're going to get the latest on a possible hate crime that took place in Midtown. That's right after the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Atlanta police are looking for two more suspects who they say took part of a group of teens accused of vandalizing a pride flag in Midtown. We know 4 suspects were taken into custody near the scene after witnesses called police. This was taken at 2 a.m. Tuesday morning. You can see the 6 young men on scooters at Atlanta's Rainbow Crosswalk on Piedmont and 10th Streets. You can also see the suspects tearing into a pride flag in the middle of the street, while another suspect is on a scooter recording of the video on his cell phone. The group is believed to have stolen the flag, and they start to slice the flag up with a knife. APD also says the suspects are between the ages of 16 and 18 years old. Once officers arrived following reports of a disturbance in the area, the group fled on scooters. Here with more reaction on this case, let's bring in community activist Essence Johnson. Essence, you have a personal connection to this. It happened 1 block away from your son's school?
Yes. I drive past that every day, twice a day.
What does this message send to the LGBT plus community in our city about, especially a city being touted on being more inclusive? What does it say?
It says that people are not welcome here. It says that too many incidents of hate crimes are going unreported and ignored. I know that they are not calling this a hate crime at this time, but it shows that it's more than just vandalism. I mean, that's a place that you can drive by, and if you look down, you see the rainbows and you feel happy. You feel excited. You know that it's a place of inclusion. And when I drive down every day, it's like, okay, there's something that just brings me joy. Again, we're seeing more hate crimes arising across the country that are not being reported or ignored. And hate starts from the top. I mean, you see it from the LGBTQ community being ridiculed and banned from the military. This is sending a dangerous message, and it's unacceptable.
So the police are investigating this as a hate crime. You would call it a hate crime?
I would definitely call it a hate crime. It was intentional. They were going to the Rainbow Crosswalk in an area known to be a community for the LGBTQ plus community. It was targeted. Who comes all the way from up north going down to Atlanta at 2 o'clock and land between Piedmont and 10th Street? That was intentional.
Talk about the importance of that crosswalk in this community.
You fight for rights. Right? I mean, imagine the joy, the amount of, blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into ensuring that LGBTQ are viewed as people, as humans, as love, a part of a community. And you go down there and you see a 4-way crosswalk with the rainbows, and then you see the flags. It shows that we're accepted. Atlanta is a place of diversity of all races, ethnicities, sexualities, but it's one place that you can belong. I mean, that's what, when I went to the school looking at the school that my son goes to, they have all the flags, right? Everybody is loved in its inclusivity. So to have that place just being targeted and coordinated, and I call it a hate crime, it saddens me.
Do you think that this incident kind of shakes the sense of safety for people who work and gather in this community?
Absolutely. I think any place right now has a sense of fear. But one thing that I will say, we are resilient. We are one that will, someone will try to tear us down, but that makes us come together even more. I think that we will take this lesson, make sure that we put precautions in place, because what happens if someone was actually there at the time that this was happening? What could have come? God forbid, I could only imagine what that could have been like. But we are resilient. We are going to continue to support our LGBTQ plus community and all communities that right now are being targeted, especially from the top.
You mentioned your son going to school down the street. Did he ask any questions about this incident to you?
He just doesn't understand why people cannot love each other and respect each other. It's a constant conversation that we have. He's 13 years old, so he's trying to figure out this world. And the question that he always asks me is, Mom, what are you doing to make the world a better place for us? Why does this stuff keep continuing? And what I tell him is, at the end of the day, we advocate, we educate, and we engage, and we mobilize. Mm-hmm. We don't stop, regardless of what's going on.
All right, Essence Johnson, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your insight on this situation. All right, folks, it is going to be a hot day. We got a couple clouds overhead. Now, we've been starting out with crystal clear skies, but now a few clouds starting to infiltrate. Now, that's a good sign that more moisture is getting into our atmosphere. So with the daytime heating, of course, we could see some scattered showers and thunderstorms pop up, and I think they will. After about 2 o'clock this afternoon, that's when we'll start to see a few scattered showers around the area. Some of those thunderstorms could be strong to severe, especially when it comes to the winds, wind damage, folks. We're talking about winds up to 40, maybe 60 miles per hour. That could lead to some trees being knocked down and some power outages, so be on the lookout. Carry the rain gear with you. You're going to need it for today. All right, autonomous vehicles can now get you around Atlanta. Yesterday, Uber and Waymo launched the cars for public use at no additional charge through the Uber app. But with any new technology, it comes with a lot of questions. Here to help us answer some of them questions is Camille Irving. She's Uber's Vice President of Operations. Camille, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good to see you.
All right. Why do you feel that this is the right time to have Atlanta with these Waymo cars?
Listen, autonomous technology is the future of mobility, and there's no city better than Atlanta to be the next stop for launching this technology, because Atlanta is always open to innovation, always open to new things. And I'm really excited to see Uber and Waymo partnered in this great city.
All right, so I have the Uber app, right? I've Ubered before, but what happens like when I open up my app, what triggers the actual change between a Waymo car and a regular driver?
Yeah, good question. So the Waymo cars are on the road, and when you order an UberX or an Uber Comfort or a Comfort Electric, if a Waymo is the closest vehicle and most available vehicle, then you'll be matched with one.
Now, do I have the option to say, hey, wait a minute?
You do.
Okay.
So once you're matched with a Waymo, you will have the opportunity, if you're not quite ready to take the ride yet, to opt out, and you'll be rebooked at no extra cost with just one click. But listen, I encourage you to try it.
I bet you do. I bet you do. I mean, the car pulls up, there's nobody in it. You suspect that a lot of people will be hesitant at first. What do you say to those folks to go ahead and get into the car?
Yeah, what I'll tell you is that the Waymo driver seeks to be the safest driver in the world. The Waymo driver has done hundreds of millions of miles on the road. Since we have been launched in cities publicly, there have been no major incidences. And just think about it. The car literally has eyes in the back of its head.
What, literally, right? Yeah. So right now it's limited to about a 65 square mile zone. What benchmarks or data points will determine how far you expand this thing?
Yeah, just like with any new technology, there are a set of criteria that go into determining where the best places for it to operate right now. And so right now we'll be in that 65 square foot area around Atlanta, which includes all of the hotspots in the metro area. So people may be in a Waymo to go to work, to go to school, to go hang out on the weekends, to go to the gym, or whatever you need to do.
This may be an unfair question to you, but I'm going to ask anyway. Think ahead, right? Evolution, right? How far or how long do you think it will be before we're all just in these driverless cars?
You know, I think it'll be in our lifetime.
You think you will see it in your lifetime?
Oh, certainly.
I mean, but like tomorrow?
No, for the foreseeable future, you will see human drivers and autonomous vehicles sharing the road, and that'll be the case for a while to come. But I do think that sometime in our lifetime, we will see autonomous vehicles everywhere, and we'll all have a chance to ride in them.
Yeah, I know you guys are still testing. One of the questions people ask me is what happens when the weather hits, right? I know you guys are looking at that with ice and heavy rain and thunderstorms, things like that. Are you still having those cars on the road during those events?
That's right. So Waymo vehicles have been on the road in lots of different weather events. They have tested in Death Valley, California for extreme heat. They've been testing in Atlanta for the rain. As you know, sometimes the rain here can be quite intense. And they have tested in snowy conditions. When the weather gets to a point where the Waymo team feels like it's not right, then the cars won't be on the road, which may be sometimes if there's a snowy condition. But in general, the cars are ready for almost all weather conditions. All
right, Camille, I'm going to tell you another thing you have to be on the lookout for. People watching those cars as they're driving next to them, trying to figure out what's going on. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, take care. Folks, don't go anywhere. Plenty more stories. This is The Take. We're back right after this. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is under increased pressure from the White House, but says the mission has not changed. CNN's Marbel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning, Marbel. What did the Fed chair tell lawmakers yesterday, and what has been the fallout?
Good morning, Chesley. Jerome Powell says the Fed still needs to see how much tariffs raise prices before it cuts interest rates. So the Fed chairman told a House committee yesterday policymakers still expect inflation will pick up this summer due to tariffs. The question is by how much. Once the Fed gets that information, it can then move to cut its key interest rates. Powell's testimony was largely a continuation of the Fed's wait-and-see stance on rates, and it comes despite harsh personal criticism of Powell from President Trump, who has demanded interest rates be lowered. Now, when asked if Trump attacks were having an impact on Fed policy, Powell said, quote, they're having no effects, and he added, quote, we're doing our jobs. Powell will offer the testimony today before a Senate committee and take more questions. Chesley.
All right, certainly more on that to come. You know, parents are rethinking their shopping lists, and it sounds like retailers are adjusting already.
It's already that time of the year when back-to-school shopping starts up. Families expect to spend the same or more on back-to-school supplies despite economic uncertainty. That's the findings of a survey of nearly 2,000 parents from PwC. So it found close to 3/4 expect to spend the same as last year, and about a third say they'll actually spend more this year. Now, while consumers are looking for value, back-to-school is somewhat insulated because much of it is seen as necessities. PwC says parents know there are certain things they have to buy, whether it's books, supplies, or technology. The survey also found artificial intelligence is impacting how parents back-to-school shop. 1 in 5 shoppers plan to use AI tools to find those online deals. Thank goodness, Chesley. Well, we didn't have technology when we were growing up.
No, not as much at all. All right, Marbel, Amazon already has a strong presence here in Metro Atlanta with a major distribution center. But what's the company now offering in rural America?
Okay, Amazon is expanding its rapid delivery service to thousands of smaller cities, towns, and rural communities. Same day and next day delivery will be offered to 4,000 new communities across the U.S. by the end of the year. Now, it's part of a $4 billion push by Amazon to triple the size of its delivery network. The online giant says rural customers living farther from stores, they've got fewer brand choices and delivery options when they shop online. Amazon says one of the big benefits of faster delivery will be access to its everyday essentials like groceries and household goods. The expansion has already started in 1,000 of the smaller communities, and more than 90% of the top 50 repurchased items for same-day delivery in those areas are essential items like coffee pods, water bottles, and batteries. And you can find out if your area has same-day service through Amazon's website. Chesley, that's their edge. They have the hubs. Instead of having to wait for something at a faraway distribution center, the hubs can keep that inventory, those coffee pods close by, Chesley.
Absolutely. All right, finally, we are the home of Chick-fil-A, and we love it down here, but it turns out other folks agree.
Everybody loves it. According to the survey, Chick-fil-A has come out on top again in the annual survey of customer satisfaction. The chain grabbed that #1 spot in the American Customer Satisfaction Index for the 11th straight year. Chick-fil-A topped the quick service restaurant category, which includes not only fast food rivals, but brands like Panera, Starbucks, and Domino's. Second place went to Panda Express, which saw its satisfaction score increase. McDonald's had the lowest score in the category, in the restaurant category. Texas Roadhouse came in first, along with a Longhorn Steakhouse, and Applebee's satisfaction score inched up to land in the 3rd place. The survey looks at everything from the accuracy of orders to food quality, along with courtesy and helpfulness of a restaurant staff. And that survey has been done for more than a quarter century. It covers about 40 industries. It's based on data from interviews with roughly 200,000 customers. Chesley, I'll tell you what, though, you love Chick-fil-A. That 2-lane lunchtime drive-through, it says it all.
I know they're kind of new up there. When I was a kid in Philadelphia, they were only in the malls, and now they're just everywhere, right?
Right. They're everywhere, and they are efficient. And we'll go, look, they're closed on Sunday, and we're still knocking on those doors.
I know that's right. I usually get mine on Saturday night just so I can eat it on Sunday, Marbel.
There you go.
That's what I do. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow.
You got it.
All right. Measles cases are on the rise, folks. We're going to talk to a local epidemiologist coming up next. Stay right there. Welcome back. All right, so far this year, a total of 6 cases of measles have been reported right here in Georgia. The last one coming last week, the patient is unvaccinated and part of the same Metro Atlanta household as the May case linked to travel abroad. Now, the infected person was placed under quarantine immediately after known exposure. The 6 cases this year matches the total logged all of last year. Here to help us make more sense of this is state epidemiologist Sherry Drenzik. Sherry, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start off with this latest case. How close was Georgia to having a broader outbreak, and what stopped that from spreading beyond the household?
Yeah, so both of our measles situations this year have been very similar in that there were 3 cases in January and 3 cases in May that were all in the same households, and they were related to international travel. So what we do as far as our public health response, which is every measles case is an emergency for us in the sense that we right away find out where a measles case has been during the period that they're infectious, which is 4 days before their rash begins and 4 days after the rash starts. Every place where they've been, we identify people that may have been there, and we try to find out if any of these people are susceptible to measles. And if they are, that means either they're not vaccinated or they're too young to be vaccinated, or maybe they're immune compromised. So we identify all those people right away. We give them vaccine or immune globulin if it's appropriate, and that will stop them from becoming infected as well. And then for individuals that are kind of beyond that time frame, we actually monitor them every single day with an electronic system that we have in public health that goes through their entire incubation period through 21 days. And the most important thing we really try to reiterate to folks that may have been exposed to measles is that we don't want them to show up at their healthcare provider or an emergency department just on their own. We want to be able to facilitate that so it's safe and so it doesn't spread to others. So we, in our situation here in Georgia, our rapid, sort of response in sort of containing people that may have been exposed and monitoring them was successful, and we didn't have any other secondary cases, just the ones in those households. So in that sense, it's kind of a tried and true public health measure that we use for other communicable diseases as well. We call it contact tracing.
And so the risk, you have to be really close. Obviously, we had 3 cases in one family. That makes some sense, right? Because they're right there in the same household. So a neighbor, would that person be quarantined as well, or would you kind of contain them as well, or maybe a whole block?
No, you really do have to be, in physical proximity. Although measles is tremendously contagious in an environment where there is close proximity. For example, there have been measles cases that have spread on airplanes. So an individual who was incubating and infectious with measles actually spread to other individuals that were close by on an airplane. Measles virus can actually remain in the air or on surfaces for several hours. So if somebody with measles is in, let's just say, the waiting room of an emergency department,
right,
we actually identify all of the people that were in the emergency department with them, because again, in this situation, it might be in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our usual way we do it. But if we're talking about a household and a neighborhood, it wouldn't be like that. We want to be really in physical proximity.
Yeah.
And really, the most important thing that we really try to reiterate is that people should be vaccinated, especially if they're traveling. The international travel and even domestic travel in some situations, this has been the driver of measles cases and measles outbreaks here in the U.S. this year, which is really turning out to be the largest number of measles cases in the U.S. Since 25 years, or since 2000.
Mm-hmm. What should we be looking for? Obviously, heightened concern about the travel piece. That really got my attention there. And maybe we need to think about how we, bring people back in and checking them, that kind of thing. But what should we be looking for or looking out for when it comes to the measles?
Yeah, well, number one, I would say that the most important thing that we can do as not only individuals, families, and communities is to ensure that everyone is up to date on vaccination. Because there are so many measles cases now internationally and here in the US, we really recommend that anybody that's traveling needs to be vaccinated against measles with the MMR, 2 doses of MMR vaccine. It's safe, it's effective. And for infants that are too young to be vaccinated, usually they get their first dose at a year of age. Yeah. It's actually recommended now during this kind of ongoing measles situation here in the U.S. that they get an early dose if they're traveling internationally. So if you have a baby that's under the year of age, they can get an early dose, and that's very important as well.
All right, Sherry Drenzik, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insight on this. We may be talking to you real soon, so stay with us.
Excellent.
Stay with us.
My pleasure.
Hopefully it doesn't spread, though. Hopefully it doesn't spread. Thanks so much. All right, don't go anywhere, folks. My final take right after the break. Hot, hot, hot. Once again today, 97 degrees for your afternoon high temperature. And when you factor in the humidity, it's going to feel like the triple digits out there. So make sure you take the necessary precautions. We have an 11Alive weather impact alert day for the heat, but also for that 50% chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms out there, folks. Be careful outside today. Grab the rain gear before you leave the house. You're going to need that. And then each and every day for the rest of the week, into the weekend and next week, we'll have a good 30 to 40% chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms. Our temperatures lower just a little bit as well. We'll be in the low 90s as we head through the weekend and into next week. So the heat wave at least will continue, but our temperatures will be a little bit lower. All right, before we go, my final take, folks. Artificial intelligence has come a long way in a short period of time, but research from MIT may be providing what we feared all along, that it would turn us into less critical thinkers. Yeah, a recent study by scientists at MIT asked 54 adults to write a series of essays using ChatGPT and others using their own brains. Well, the cognitive engagement for those who used AI was significantly lower than those in the other group. In fact, the group who used AI felt a lower sense of ownership over their work. Of course, this isn't groundbreaking research right here, but it does reaffirm that it may not be a good idea for AI to be used on the elementary and middle school levels. The problem is, how do we prevent our young people from using it, since AI has infiltrated every aspect and continues to do so of our lives? Parents, I know you're busy, but we're going to have to go back and reinforce some learning at home. You're going to have to do puzzles with your kids, crossword puzzles, word finds, things like that, to force them to think with their own minds instead of a machine doing all the thinking for us. I'm not a machine. I'm a human, for real. I'm real. That's all we got for you today, folks. Be sure to encourage somebody and make it a great day. And let's think. What kind of society would we be if we were not thinking? Have a great day.